This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
It's one of the most important things in our lives. We assume it gets taken care of in a reasonable way, but sometimes we're not right about that. Talking about communication. And I always think of music because I played music on the radio and still do for decades. And a song just dropped in my head. Led Zeppelin, Communication Breakdown. That's the name of the song. Not even kidding. Good song, by the way.
There you go.
So we're going to talk about that today. How to communicate better, how to get your message across, where the communication breakdowns really take place. He is the man behind a wonderful program called International Achievements, where there's... intentional achievements, but it is international. You can take this.
It happens all the time, so not a problem.
I'm thinking big, my friend. I'm thinking big.
I love it.
Doesn't matter where you are. You can be a part of that program, but underneath that umbrella of intentional achievements, there's so many different programs, even training for coaches as well. He's back with us, Joe Price, on the program. You know what? I need to communicate better.
Don't we all?
Welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, sir.
Hey, it's so funny. Like, international, okay, great. But intentional, that is such a key word in terms of everything that we do, even down to communication, being intentional about the way we communicate. I think sometimes that we take it for granted and we just talk, we type, whatever it might be, and we're sort of on autopilot. Do you think that's what's going on there a lot?
I think it's absolutely true. And the thing that we have to understand is everything that happens in our life happens through communication.
Truth.
So it is the vehicle by which everything happens. And it's so important that we don't spend a lot of conscious and intentional time thinking about it and thinking about what goes wrong and why it goes wrong. In every single relationship that we have communication problems or breakdowns, and we just sort of assume that it's supposed to be that way. We try to improve our communication, but the challenge is that we don't understand what's really happening and that we're reacting sometimes to old patterns that we have,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so I wrote a book. It's called 11 Traps of Communication, From Breakdown to Breakthroughs. And it shows us 11 challenges that we have in a variety of different areas of the way that we communicate and how we can overcome them in order to create better communication and outcomes.
Isn't it amazing, Joe, that in 2026, and this communication thing has started since we started, verbal communication, letters, typing as time went on.
Yeah.
And here we are with different devices, social media, digital this, AI, all of it.
Right.
It comes back to the same thing. Communication. You would think by now we would be getting it right more often. But, it doesn't
if we're
happen.
unconsciously falling into the same traps all the time, how can we actually improve it?
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. Awareness is everything, right?
And that's the whole point of being intentional, right?
Yeah.
So you know me, I'm a fanatic about definitions. So let's start with the definition of communication, because in the definition is the problem and the solution. So if somebody came to you and said, what's your definition of communication? What would you say?
Restate that. I want to make sure. Here we go. Communication. Let me make sure I get that right.
Yeah. So if somebody asks you the question, what's your definition of communication? What would your answer be?
The effective expressing of one's ideas or thoughts.
Okay. Excellent. And I think a lot of people would go in the exact same direction that you went. The interesting thing about that definition is that it's a one-sided definition of communication.
Well, fair enough. I'm expressing mine to somebody else.
Correct.
Maybe I'm not thinking of it in the way that they're receiving it or maybe receiving it.
Very good. So you're getting on to one of the issues and one of the 11 traps when it comes to communication. So let me give you my definition of communication and break it down for you. So here's our definition. Communication is the transference of thoughts, feelings, and ideas from one to another through the use of signs, signals, and symbols. Let me say it again, and then I'll break it down for you. Transference of thoughts, feelings, and ideas from one to another through the use of signs, signals, and symbols.
Which goes back to the beginning of us, because hieroglyphics, smoke signal,
Correct.
whatever it might be.
Yes.
But I will say that when I type an email, I try to think of how they're going to be receiving it or
Good for you.
perceiving it. And
Yes.
everybody is different. So the
Yeah.
email to Tom might be different than the email to Tammy. I will
Correct.
think about how they're going to receive it, how they're going to hear it in their mind, and I kind of play to the audience. And that's just my view of it. And instead of
Yeah.
just shooting it out there, you have to read like a DJ in a club. You have to read the audience.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right. It's one of the things that all of us need to pay attention to more because, I have this phrase that says, it doesn't matter the message you send, it matters the message that's received. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it takes the pressure off of us as the sender to think about what the other party is perceiving and what the message is. Now, each form of communication has its own problems. You talk about sending an email. The only form of communication for the email are the words, right? Because they don't have your facial expression, they don't have your body language, they don't have your tone of voice. The only thing that they can use to judge the intent of your message is the words.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting part about communication. Communication success is only 7% dependent on the words.
Whoa. That's a lot lower than I would ever imagine it to be.
Yes,
7%.
7%.
I want to share that with others. So give me that again so I can etch it in my mind.
Okay. And I'll tell you what the other 93% are. So communication success is dependent on three things: the words you use, the tone of voice through which they're transmitted, if it's vocal, and your body language as you're communicating.
Sure.
The words themselves only contribute to 7% of its success.
Okay. So what if it's an email?
If it's an email, the challenge that we have is the words that we use, we're not sure how they're going to be interpreted. And that comes back to the definition of signs, signals, and symbols. Why do I use those words? Because our language is like signs, symbols, and signals. They have to be interpreted. And let me give you an example. I am your boss and I say to you, I need this ASAP. What does ASAP mean to you coming from your boss?
Get it done quickly.
When?
Obviously, as soon as possible.
Okay. As soon as possible might be in the next 5 minutes for him. It might be as soon as I'm able. It might be by the end of the day. It's based on the interpretation that we give it as to what that actually means.
It is a variable because you could internalize as soon as possible any way you want. Your boss comes back
Correct.
to you. Where's the report? I
Right.
sent that to you this morning, and now it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Where's the report? And
Yes.
the other person that received it, email, could say, "Well, I didn't get to it. Why didn't you get to it? It wasn't possible. You said as
Yeah.
soon as possible."
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you look at the words that we use. Sometimes we use the word, it happens frequently or it happens often. Well, can you put a percentage of time that it happens to the term often or frequently?
Nope. Nobody
It's
can.
all interpretation based. And my interpretation might be different from your interpretation because my interpretation comes from all of my experience, which is totally different from your experiences.
Would you say, and we definitely want to get into this deeper, what you just brought up, but just at this point, when you are sending an email or a text, to think deeper how it's going to be perceived and give clarity. The boss
Yes.
saying, "I need this report as soon as possible." No, if you're the boss, "I need this report by 12 noon. If that's going to be an
Absolutely.
issue, please let me know why."
You got it.
You know what I
Yep.
think it also is? It's tempering the intent of the email because maybe you don't want to come off sounding harsh. So yeah,
Right.
I need that guy to get Mike to get that report done today. But I don't want to push too hard. I don't want to sound like a hard you know what.
Yeah, but here's the challenge with that. What if you're being pressured by somebody else to get that thing done? Right?
Yeah.
And so you've got deadlines on you, and you're trying to meet those deadlines,
Yep.
and you're telling whoever that person is that you're going to meet that deadline. But now you're waiting for somebody else to give you something that you need in order to finish the project that you're working on in order to give it to somebody else, right? How do you communicate that downstream so that they understand it? And you used another word, and again, what I'm trying to convey here is that communication is more complicated than we give it credit for, and that we have to spend more time thinking about the complicated nature of communication. You use the word clarity, right? You have to be more clear. Well, what does the word clarity mean? What does clear mean? If I
Clearer.
say, I need you to communicate more clearly, would you know what I'm asking you to do?
Technically, no, because that's your view of what clearer is or more
Yeah,
clear. I got a different view of that. So
it could
yeah.
be precise, it could be concise, it could be more specific. You see?
Yeah.
So every word that we use is being interpreted by the other person based on their own experiences. And most of the time, in any relationship, when we have communication breakdown or a problem in that relationship in communication, I believe that 85% of the problem, we are arguing about the definition and the meaning of the words we're using, not arguing about the point that we're talking about.
I could totally see that. Like we get mixed up in the minutia, but the original intent of the communication get lost.
Absolutely correct.
Wow.
You say?
So steps on how to improve.
So the first thing is to understand the mechanism of communication. And let me share with you what I mean. So in this visual that's on the screen that looks very complicated and there's a lot of things going on, I did that for purpose because communication is that complex. But it really is pretty simple. In communication, there's a sender and a receiver, right? I
Yep.
mean, that's how simple the process really is.
Yep.
But it's so much more complex than that. So let me ask you this. When we have a sender of communication and a receiver of communication, who's more responsible for the effectiveness of that communication, the sender or the receiver?
I am going to say the sender.
Why?
They initiated the communication.
Okay.
It's their job to make sure that, to the best of your ability, you transmitted it, whatever means that would be.
Correct.
Could be even verbal, in person.
Yep.
You have a responsibility to make sure that gets done as best as you can.
Okay.
It's almost respecting the receiver.
Right. Now, how do you ensure that the receiver got the same message that you intended to send?
You can't, but you can minimize the risk of them not getting it right by making sure that we do the things that we're talking about ASAP.
Okay.
If you need it done by a certain time, say you need it done by a certain time. Get rid of the ASAP. Just throw
Right.
that away. Things like that. Clarity. That's my word. It was my word last
Right.
year. I need clarity on this. Just
Yeah.
make it clear. Is it always going to be crystal clear? I don't believe that's even possible.
Right. Okay. So I would challenge the word clear, and I would coach somebody to substitute the word specific for the word clear. Right? Because if I'm asking for specificity, if I say I need it ASAP or I need it by the end of the day, and you think end of the day sounds pretty specific, but my end of the day, I leave work at 8 o'clock. You leave work at 5 o'clock. When is it due? Right?
Mm.
And so the specificity becomes important. The issue of the sender making sure that the message is being received, couldn't I ask questions of the receiver and ask them, what message do you think I just sent you? Or in your own words, could you repeat what I just said or asked you so I know you got the same message I intended to send?
In a perfect world, yes. I can see that being perceived by the receiver as potentially offensive,
Right?
belittling,
Yes.
inferring that they don't get it. So now
Right.
you need it repeated back so it's both parties are on the same page.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely right.
but if you want true, I mean, if it is something that is so specific and timely, and you don't want leave anything out, leave anything to judgment or miscommunication, that would be the best way to go.
Yeah. So when you say the sender is more responsible, I would say there are a lot of people that say communication is a 50-50 deal. It's an equal responsibility on me as the sender, and it's equally responsible on your part as the receiver to make sure that you're receiving the message that I'm sending. The challenge with the concept of 50-50 is that, and I equate that to marriage. Most people think marriage is a 50-50 deal, and that's the reason why we have a 54% divorce rate in this country, right? And the reason for that is I am waiting for my other partner to give their 50% before I give my 50%. So there's always this waiting in that relationship for the other person to do their part. So who's more responsible in intentional achievements terms? It's 100% responsibility on both parties' part. The sender needs to take 100% responsibility to make sure that that message is received the way that it was sent. But it's also 100% responsible on the receiver to make sure they communicate to the sender they got the message and that they understood it the way that it was intended. Now,
Okay.
we're going to talk in depth about how that happens, but think about any relationship that you're in, whether it's a spouse or a boss or a friend or an acquaintance or whatever the relationship is. If each party took 100% responsibility for communication effectiveness, wouldn't communication automatically improve?
Yes, and I'm seeing something here. I still feel that it's important for the sender to craft the message as best they can so there's no confusion. You know, take the end of day stuff out of there. It's 5 p.m. I need it done. As soon as possible, remove that. Those types of things. But the responsibility of the receiver should be that they should reply instead of, okay, reply. You could say, okay, I will make sure that report is delivered to you by 5 p.m. today.
Yes.
So you're as the receiver, it should be your responsibility to basically say what the other person said. So we're both on the same page. And if the other person didn't say it, then the receiver can't say it. For example, again, end of day. All right. At the end of, you could take another step as the sender and say, okay, I will make sure that report is done by my end of day, 5 p.m. And if the other person doesn't agree, no. I was talking about, the day ends at 8 p.m., whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I see that.
The receiver can say, here's what I heard. Did I hear it correctly?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or here's my understanding of what you said. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah. All right. And if you a less formal, if you want to say, okay, want to make sure we're both on the same page, I'll blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Right? Now, let's say that you're a parent parenting a teen and your teen's room is never clean. And so you say to your kid, by 3 o'clock today, I want that room absolutely clean. And you think the message is pretty clear, very specific. You come into the room at 3:30 and it is nowhere near what your definition of clean is. And now an argument ensues, right? Because the kid's definition of clean is different from my definition of clean.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally get it. I totally get it.
And so in any of the relationships that we have, that kind of specificity and that kind of understanding has to be there in order for communication effectiveness to happen.
We're just about out of time. Should we do a part 2 on this?
Yeah, well, we've got 11 traps that we have to get through. Oof. So it'll be a conversation for the next couple of times we get together.
So I want to share this on communication because I kind of pilot by this and I try to remember it as much as possible.
Yeah.
When you need to send an email, a text, maybe even verbal communication, and sometimes there can be some heated things that you might consider hot under the collar. I call it the 3 rule. Put it through the 3 filter. Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's excellent. Yeah.
I try to remember
it. I mean, one of the things that we have a tendency to do is to react to a situation and then communicate from that reaction.
Emotion.
Right?
Yeah.
And so something will happen and we'll send an email that we think is perfectly fine. What we don't understand is our emotional reaction is in the way the language is written in the email. We don't see it because we're in that emotion as we're sending the email. And so there's an old story in Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People that talks about Abraham Lincoln back in the day during the war, where one of the generals made a huge mistake and caused a tremendous amount of problems. And he was getting ready to fire the general and replace him with somebody else. He wrote a letter, put the letter in his top drawer, and let it sit for a day.
Yep.
Brought it back out and reread it, and then rewrote it and sent it. Right?
I love it. It's the way it should be. Even assuming you have time, even basic emails that may be a little uncomfortable, but not a confrontation, nothing like that. take a little time. Even if you type it, putting it in a draft and then just pull it out again and just go through it again. It makes you see it in such a different way, even if it's an hour, a day, whatever it might be. It's the way it should be done.
Yeah. Couple of key points to summarize. If you're communicating with anybody in any relationship, make sure that you take 100% responsibility to make the communication effective. Make sure that you understand that your words are being interpreted by the other person.
Yep.
And really figure out signs, symbols, and signals, how they're going to interpret those words, maybe reframe them a little bit, and then get as much away from the emotion attached to the event as possible before you communicate.
A major takeaway here for me is, as the receiver of a message, you have a responsibility to make sure that you get it right. And sometimes you may be hearing it wrong. It might be specific, that what you received was very specific. You might interpret it differently for various number of reasons. Make sure you got it right. Follow up with an email, that instead of just an okay. Fantastic. Boy, is there anything that you don't teach?
Yeah. I don't teach finance. That's not my area of specialty.
I'm right there with you, and I wouldn't even seek that out from just ballroom dancing. Not my thing either.
There you go.
Intentionalachievements.com, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, you have so many great programs. This is just literally the tip of the iceberg in terms.
It's a small piece.
Yeah, but communication is important. Joe, thank you so much for being here today. Good stuff. Looking forward next time we get together.
Excellent. Look forward to it. Thanks, sir.
Likewise. This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.